Broad Radio, talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis? We've got you covered. Broad Radio. Here for more.
So, Mimi, you know I'm a big believer of finding whatever techniques and strategies help you that you can put in a little toolkit of life to get through, because life is, a struggle, right? But this is one that I have not come across before. It's about helping you with your worries in a strategy where you are making time, like worry time, okay? This is a whole new for me, and I have done a lot of therapy in my time. I'm not boasting.
I think between the two of us, not that it's a therapy competition, but I feel like we've done a lot of therapy between us, and to have never heard about worry time,
amazing. But we're very evolved because of it, obviously, you and I. The new app is called Contain Your Brain, and it is created by clinical psychologist Dr Lillian Nejad, who joins us now. Hi there, Lillian.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
You're joining us from your COVID bed, so I do appreciate that. Although we're probably, the most interesting thing to happen to you since you've been in ISO for 5 days.
That's true. This is like, the bright spark of my time in my room. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Before we start, I just wanted to say that Mimi, I've worked in public mental health for many, many years, and I really think that your book is so important. Your story is such an important one to tell, because it is not an uncommon one. And it is really hard when you see people, who have been suffering for so long when there is treatment available. So I hope that your book encourages more people to get help and to make those really challenging phone calls sometimes to get the support.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think what you say about it's not an uncommon story is so true, because so many people have this similar story, but not everybody has the opportunity to write it down. So having it there in words, on the page, hopefully can reach some people to get help too.
I can't wait to read it myself.
Lillian, tell us about Contain Your Brain. It's a beautiful app. It looks amazing, but tell us how does it work?
Okay, so Contain Your Brain is basically a psychological strategy that I've been recommending to my clients for years with anxiety and worry. And like you said before, it's often referred to as worry time. And it's a strategy that basically helps you create boundaries for your worries. So instead of letting them take over every minute of the day, you set a time and a place to worry, and only worry in that time and place. And it's really about, not telling yourself to stop worrying, because we know that doesn't work. And I'm sure Joe or Mimi, it's a very common experience to try to get yourself to just stop thinking something. But what ends up happening is your stubborn brain just wants to say, hey, pay attention, this is important, and make sure you keep thinking about this. But if you tell your brain, thanks for alerting me to this problem, and I'll note it down and worry about it at 5 p.m. on Monday, your brain doesn't actually need to bother you about it anymore, because it knows that you've taken it seriously. So it's essentially like a strategy that helps you contain your worry to hopefully less than 30 minutes a day, and to one particular time and place.
And so once you write it down, it's like getting it off your mind.
Yeah, it's like, basically you set your time and place first. Often people like to set more of an evening time, but not too close to bedtime. So around between 5 and 7 p.m. is a good time. And it's recommended for it to be about a half hour long, but you can vary that according to what you need and what's helpful for you. And then, of course, worries are going to pop up during the day, outside of your worry time. So all you do is you add those in, and we created the app And I say we because I have a co-founder named Brenton as well, who designed it and made it look beautiful. We created the app to make it easier to do this strategy, because I one day was talking to one of my clients about doing this worry time or contain your brain strategy. And I just realized that the old school method of doing it is so cumbersome, because it involved you having like little pieces of paper or note cards and a pen on hand so that you could write them down and then have a container to put them in. Whereas wouldn't an app be so much easier, because people always have their phone? So you just add in your worries, and then you just remind yourself you'll worry about that in your worry time. And then in your worry time, we actually extend the strategy a little bit further by helping people address their worries effectively. So we get people to sort their worries into one of three categories. So the first one is solvable. So obviously the ones that are solvable, we give you some tips to help you find solutions for those issues. And then the second category is the unsolvable. And I think that a lot of our worries can sometimes fall into this unsolvable category. And so we help you with tips on how to accept that your worries are sometimes unsolvable, and sometimes you're not in control of everything. And sometimes all you can do is take care of yourself, be self-compassionate, be kind to yourself, and maybe do strategies that can help you through it, like mindfulness or even distraction sometimes. And then the third category is solved, because often when you get to your worry time, either your worries have actually solved themselves by the time you get to worry time, or they actually never happen. So in fact, the research shows that up to 90% of what we worry about actually doesn't ever happen. So we're spending a lot of our time worrying about things that we really just don't need to be expending our mind energy on. And so we give people like tips on how to reflect on those types of worries, so that and that whole process and the practice of that will eventually help you in the moment. Because if you have that type of worry in the moment, you'll recognize it. Oh, this is going to be one of those solved ones, or this is one of those unsolvable ones that, I'm going to just need to accept, or I'm going to need to find a way to cope with, because spending time worrying about it actually isn't helping me.
I love, firstly, the premise that obviously we are going to worry. You can't not. That's who we are. Although I do like to, I wonder why. Why do we worry?
Well, that's a great question. I think that a lot of people that come in to see me as a psychologist they want to get rid of anxiety and they want to get rid of worry. They're like, why can't I just get rid of it? And I mean, they're connected. So worry is kind of your thought expression of anxiety. And it's there to alert you, just like anxiety is necessary for you to survive. Your worries are there to help you by alerting you to potential problems so that you can solve them. It's just, so it has this really useful function, but of course, everything that's functional can be dysfunctional as well. So if we're worrying too much, too frequently, we're worrying about things that we can't do anything about. It's taking up a lot of time in our day. It's causing us stress, and we can't sleep, and it's causing us muscle tension and, relationship issues, then, or it's causing us to over prepare all the time, or procrastinate or avoid, then that's when it's time to do something about it, and contain your brain is a good start.
So how do you draw a line under that time? If you've set aside half an hour to worry, but you've got an hour's worth of worries,
where does it end?
Manage that. I'm not done worrying yet.
So I think you can start, if you really think that half hour isn't going to be enough to start with, you start with an hour. And see how that goes. But I think your question's a good one. You don't want to go over that time. So my suggestion is to have a plan for that afterwards. So for instance, you might say you're going for a walk. If your worry time's from 5 to 6, then you plan from 6 to 6:15 or 6:30 to go for a walk, or 6 to 6:30 might be where you check out Alice's cookbook and you go cook something nice. But just have like a concrete activity for yourself to do so that you have this kind of finite time.
So would
And
the
with practice,
ideal, sorry to interrupt, would the ideal then be to get to a point where you're able to let go, even though you've got outstanding worries, to let go at the end of your allocated time and not worry again until the next allocated time the next day?
so it's unrealistic to say you won't worry again. It's just about noting the worries as they happen and knowing that you have set aside time to actually spend on finding solutions or accepting or reflecting on those worries. So generally, we try to get people to start with to have a worry time that's every day at a consistent time and in one particular place, because that will develop kind of a new mind habit and routine for you. And so it'll be easier and easier to stick to that time. And also you have that kind of reassurance that you've got another time the next day for anything that's left over.
What's really great too, though, is that you are setting aside the focus on yourself and not just ingesting all of this, the churning that we all carry with us every day, and then pushing through and staying on that sort of that ridiculous conveyor belt of life, which means that you don't ever, we hear about self-care all the time, and I was going, well, self-care sounds like a great idea, but who's got time for it, right? But
that's the thing, though.
That's the point. You're actually honouring it and saying, no, this has to happen daily.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, our instinct when we feel anxious or worried is to try to avoid and to try to squash it. But the research shows that when you try to suppress your thoughts, it doesn't work, first of all. But secondly, it can actually cause you to start obsessing over those thoughts even more in the future. So it's counterproductive to let your worries kind of run, through and let your worries kind of take over your life. But it's also counterproductive to try to squash them and suppress them and stop them. So this is kind of a way where you get to set the healthy boundaries around your worries and process them in an effective and efficient way.
And also, it's working on the premise that I know that you and I would agree with on this, Mimi, that we are not our thoughts.
Right. We're not our thoughts. Thoughts are just thoughts. I think that a lot of time we are attaching a lot of meaning and power to our thoughts that make them seem like they're important, and often they're not. And so this is just another way of just showing you that, if you actually delay your thoughts, most of the time nothing is going to happen. And in fact, the research shows that even if your worries do happen, people actually realize that they cope better than they thought they would, and they've actually learned something from the experience. So even for the stuff that does happen, it doesn't turn out as badly as what our minds can sometimes let us think.
Oh, our minds are very creative. They just run. They're just so powerful in painting a disaster and a catastrophe. That honestly.
Well, is this another way of exercising mindfulness?
Absolutely. I think that that's one of the reasons why it's such a powerful strategy, because in order to add your worries throughout the day, you have to be mindful of them. So it's not avoiding worries, which is what we often want to do, but is counterproductive. It's actually like, hold on, I'm thinking this, I'm going to note that down. And the more and more you do that, the more you understand how you think, the more self-aware you are, and the less uncertain and scary things will seem.
Sitting with your uncomfortable truth. It is, isn't it? It's just sitting with it, leaning into it, feeling the discomfort.
Yes.
And then worrying about it later.
Yes, absolutely. I think tolerating kind of discomfort and distress is often the key to a lot of issues that people have.
It is my response whenever my daughter, who's 13, she's, at prime catastrophe age, everything's a drama, right? And so a lot of the time she'll say, Mum, we've got to work this out. And I'll go, we'll think about that later. That's my one of my most common responses to her, because everything has to be sort of solved now. And I'm like, are you talking about something that's going to happen in 2023? We'll think about that later. And most of the time she's forgotten what on earth was the high drama. However, Christmas is just around the corner, Lillian, and I can't let you go without acknowledging that this time of year, whether it's Christmas or whatever you celebrate, it's a time of family gathering, which brings a lot of worry for a lot lot of people.
A bit of stress. Is that an understatement?
Huge amounts for some people, and real
anxiety.
Anxiety, and sometimes, you could tip over to trauma. What little nugget have you got for us to get through this time of year?
Oh, look, I definitely agree. I think in Australia, especially, because it's also the end of the school year. So parents are, up in arms trying to go to all the end of school events and try to get everything ready for the holidays. And probably 20% of us feel really high levels of stress over the holidays with financial worries and too much to do and too little time, and work and family pressures and all that sort of stuff. It's topping the stress list. So I think the first thing that we can do is really validate ourselves instead of judging ourselves. It's okay to feel down, and it makes sense to feel stressed during a time where there's so much going on. And it just makes things worse if you're judging yourself for it. And if you give yourself permission to feel the way that you feel, you often find that it gives you room to make choices that make you feel good about yourself, or to help you comfort yourself during this time if it's a real struggle. The other thing that I think can be really helpful is that, if you know that the holidays are always a struggle for you, then plan ahead, kind of expect it to be a challenging time, and be realistic about what you can and can't do, and make sure that you communicate this to others, because if you don't know your boundaries and limits, then others won't either. And, there's lots of shortcuts to getting things done these days. Order online, buy presents that are already gift wrapped, get your groceries delivered, organize like Secret Santa instead of having to buy everyone an individual gift. There's a few different things that we can do to make it a little bit less stressful. And very importantly, have a support system in place. So have a plan, especially if you get really low or depressed, that have a plan that includes important phone numbers of your supports or crisis services if that's what you're going to need, or potentially need, and maybe have also a step-by-step process to follow if your mood goes beyond the blues or beyond stressed to more of a severe emotional downturn. And if you find it really difficult to get out of bed or to take care of yourself, or you find that you're using substances more to cope, or if you have any, suicidal ideation, then these are serious signs of depression that require immediate attention. So please, there's help out there. So please call those services. Your local hospital, Lifeline is always there for you as well, and make sure that you're using the supports that are available to you. And then finally, I'd say just do what you can to lift your spirits. Do things that improve your mood, and they don't have to be holiday related. They can just be the things that you normally do throughout the year that make you feel good. So having a good laugh and being kind to yourself and others, and treating yourself.
Because it's not just that it can be busy around this time of year, it can also be a time of great loneliness.
Yes.
For a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Watching other people experience joy can make people feel really alone. And also a lot of people have lost loved ones, and that can be a really difficult time for people who are going through that, in times of celebration.
Yeah. I a few years ago, I trained myself to just take everything a lot slower. I feel like there's a real pace to Christmas, and you feel like you have to rush around the shops and you have to rush to do this and you have to cook this and you have to see this and, you know, all of that. And I realized when I was doing that, I was shutting myself off to the people that I was connecting with and wasn't aware of those who might be lonely or those who might be struggling. And so I just really thought, okay, you know, I'm going to slow right down, which means that I can be a little bit kinder to myself. And I can maybe hear when other people need a bit of a helping hand. You know, it's that connection to others, their energy. And it just really has made Christmas so much easier for me. And I hope made me a little kinder around other people as well.
I think that's right.
And then you look around, you think, why is everything so calm? What's about to go wrong? And then you get the worry app and you write that down and you set a time
I love it.
for Boxing Day to worry about it.
Oh, Boxing Day is good worry time. Oh, thanks, Lillian. It's been great to learn all about worry time. I love it. It's fantastic.
It's been great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and happy holidays. And if it's not happy, that's okay too.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Lillian.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye, guys.